Hi, I'm Maddie. Good afternoon. So I'm interested in volcanic ash and jet engines, and mainly today, I'm going to be talking about. Detection. So yeah, I'll straight in. Just a little introduction. Why do we care about volcanic ash aviation? Mainly safety reasons when the ash goes into the engines. Oh, sorry. When the ash goes into these engines, it can cause a surge and cause the engines to stall and create total power loss to all engines. And there are examples where this has happened. Thankfully, no fatalities because they've managed to restart them. Obviously, a major safety concern. And then also, I'm sure we all remember Aya in 2010 and how that grounded every flight across Europe. So there's a financial aspect in that. That alone caused a loss of 1.7 billion to the aircraft industry. And then my PhD though is a mixture of in situ measurements and also some analog models in the lab. And today, though, I'm going to be talking to you about the roller machine, which involves generating fine particles, which I'm kind of defining here as less than 40 microns. And then some in situ measurements taken from drones flown over a volcano in Guatemala in January this year. And then these amazing aggregates we found on these drone flights, which are very new and very exciting, but I'll get to them. And then this ash cloud box where we're aiming to sort of simulate an ash cloud in the lab back in Bristol. So first of all, this is the roller machine, which is what we've been using and we've designed to generate fine particles in the lab here in Bristol. And basically how this works is we put the ash particles in here and they sit in this U-bend. And then we can control the airflow going in through these valves. And we done some calculations and basically you put in a specific airflow and it elucidates the particles and airflow goes here, they elucidates the particles, they come up here, down the tube and they spit out the size range that you're looking for, really. And it has been working. This here just highlighted is sort of, it's a metal tube with holes in it lined with vacuum filter paper just to release the pressure, because otherwise they tend to come out a bit too fast and could be problems with back pressure, things like this. And basically we're hoping to use these particles for further experiments. And then this here is just some particle size distribution showing that it worked really. And these were actually done with Ballatini particles, and if you don't know what they are, they're basically kind of perfectly spherical silica particles, so they're quite good for doing calculations with. And I took kind of like a trimodal distribution from different boxes of them in the lab and then ran it through here, and it spat out this smaller distribution, which is exactly what we're looking for. And also you can see here for the cumulative percentage after I'd run it through the roller machine, everything was less than 100 microns, which is great. So yeah, in situ measurements, these are being carried out with drones in Guatemala. And this here, this is one of the drones that get flown, and there isn't a scale in here, so just the scale values, they're about my wingspan. So they're pretty big, fixed wings, so there's no like rotating parts. And then on these drones, we've been putting these flow disruptors, I suppose, which this is an SEM stub, and we put an SEM stub in here, scanning electron micron, and then this goes on the drones and then they get flown through and the stubs pick up in situ particles directly from the cloud. And this is just a picture of it in flight. And then this here is a PMS 5003, which is basically a tiny OPC, which we've also been putting on these drones to get some in situ particle concentration measurements. And yeah, it's providing basically real-time measurements from volcanoes, which is really valuable. So this is just a map of one of the drone flights that was carried out in January 2022. So sorry, it's a little bit unclear here, but you can just see the outline of the volcano here. Here's the summit and the drones. This is from the observatory by Fuego, and they take off here and they slowly kind of go up the side of the mountain. And then here, this yellow bit is where the stubs have been deployed. So they've popped up, and I'll show you that in the video in a second. And then they kind of fly through the cloud. And then they get put away and the drone slowly spirals back to land down at the bottom of the volcano here. It's quite exciting. They kind of get fired off out of the catapult. So it makes for some fun videos. But so this is just a video showing you what it looks like in flight. And this is the PMS box. And then this here will pop up. So I don't know if I hit next, so I'll play. No. Yeah, so they just pop up and then it starts to collect the ash particles in the cloud. So yeah, this is from the PMS box though, actually, and this is just showing, this is actually collecting PM10, and it's just showing this is the distal ash clouds, the lower concentrations here, and then these spikes are when it's hitting the main ash cloud near the top of the volcano, and then again more distal
sampling as it descends back to the observatory. And then these are the SEM stubs we've collected, and I talked before about this being this disruptor in front, and basically this disruptor increases the efficiency of collecting fine particles. So more fine particles get, again, sorry, it's not very clear on here. It might be slightly clearer on the screens, but you can see the disruptor shadow here and then here on these ones. But it increases the efficiency of fine particles being collected kind of here. And then these ones have no disruptors, there's no shadow. And then what I'm going to go and talk about now are, I'm sure you can notice these ones are looking really quite different from these ones. And this is normally what the stubs we collect look like. This was a real anomaly and produced some really interesting results. So what we saw were aggregates, and these are really, really exciting because they've never been seen before, forming in this situation so close to the volcano, kind of, you know, within 30 seconds of an eruption occurring. And they're all roughly about this size, and they show this pattern of sort of larger particles in the middle, grading out to finer particles around the rim here. And this one's kind of a perfect example because it's very round and shows that good grading. And then a lot of them look like this, where they're kind of slightly elongated, and we think this could be, because this one probably hit the stub kind of straight on and formed that shape, whereas this one maybe hit it in more of an angle, which is kind of producing a bit of a tail within the aggregate. So we've gone on to do a bit more of image processing on this to kind of confirm the particle sizes we've seen. So how we've been doing this is we take the original image, we increase the contrast, so we make it stand out more against the background, and then we do some thresholding and separating the particles. And this is really the time-consuming step, in that you threshold it to try and get the particles to be separated, but obviously you don't want to do it too much because then you're losing the actual shape of the particles themselves. So you have to go through and individually kind of separate any remaining particles that are still attached, which is quite a time-consuming step. So once we've done that, we can then run these thresholded images through a macro taken from Liu et al. And this gives us this is all done in ImageJ, and this gives us further information, these parameters about the particles. So you've got area, convexivity, and then ferrite diameter. So the maximum ferrite diameter, I'm not sure if that's a volcanological term or not, but basically if ash particles aren't cylindrical, so it's kind of the maximum axis of those ash particles. And then it also spits out this kind of image map, so you can correspond one particle with its measurements. And then we can only really set the particle size range as low as 5 pixels, because below that it starts to resemble a square. So this is using the kind of best example of the aggregate done here. And basically when I started doing it, I realized it was going to take an extremely long time to separate every particle in these aggregates. And considering, you know, there's quite a lot of them, it's going to be very time consuming. So instead, what I've done is I've found the center of the particle, created this strip and kind of separated it into 5 separate boxes, and then analyzed the particles within those boxes. And it's kind of showing what we've expected, that particle size decreases from the center to the rim, and it also becomes better sorted. And you can see that here in the particle size distributions as well, which is really good. And then the most important question is, why are they forming in the first place? Because this is the first time we've ever seen these. So it was quite serendipitous that these aggregates were collected at all, in that, so on the day there was some more senior academics who went to to fly drones somewhere else closer to the summit of this volcano, and there's 2 PhD students left. And normally you wouldn't fly drones through these clouds because there's open electronics, and if you watch the footage, if anyone's interested, it's very bumpy. So the drones enter these clouds and they just kind of shake all over the place. But these PhD students thought it would be fun, which is great for us. But so they flew these, and they flew straight into here and kind of skirted the outside of this cloud. So there's a strong indicator that it was the presence of water that's caused these to form. And probably obviously very quick formation, because this is within kind of 30 seconds to a minute of the eruption itself. Temperature potentially having an influence, temperature of the ash, and also ambient temperature, and then particle size is influencing that as well. So simulating conditions. This is our kind of ash box Mark 1 design, which is currently in the lab. So we've got a mini wind tunnel here. We put the ash particles in here, and we sort of fire them straight into the box. And you can either put in your OPC or your stub to kind of collect those particles. There's also some, I mean, at the moment this is being duct taped together, so it's a little bit faffy. But there's some holes at the top here with filter paper to help release that pressure as well. But we're currently being made at the moment is we're making one out of wood to and hopefully paint the inside so we can start to simulate those conditions we've seen at the volcano itself. So increase the humidity and change the temperature and all this to try and form those aggregates in the lab, which would be great. And then this is just some high-speed camera footage showing a particle. Well, you can't see it here, but then particle comes and hitting the stub here. So yeah, conclusions. Aggregates were found not where we were expecting them, forming very close to some of the volcano. Usually they're found a much greater distance or in rock deposit or in ash deposits further away. These mechanisms of formation aren't greatly understood because they haven't been seen before. We managed to generate fine particles. Ash box 1 is working, and then number 2 is currently being made in the lab at the moment. So further work, we want to continue analyzing these aggregates, finalize that method for producing these figures, and simulate this formation, hopefully using particles in a real machine and then putting them into the ash flood box, and then hopefully test out some further sensors in the box along with maybe in the field on more drones, which would be fun. But thank you all for listening. Sorry, I rattled through that, but thanks.
Thank you very much, Maddie. Do we have any questions in the room to start with? Thank you, very interesting talk. Did I miss something that you said what the distribution of the galactic particles are relative to your roller machine? That's the question.
Do you mean the particles going in, or
Particles collected from the volcano, whatever distribution you got, compared to what you can generate from your ash machine or roller machine?
so we have used the roller machine for ash as well. They're probably the ones detecting a little bit on the large side, if I'm being honest. But hopefully with a little bit more refinement or more time, we'll be able to collect some smaller ones to put within the box.
What distributions of the same order? Or did you take the actual ash?
So do you mean in the, sorry, from,
One of them simulates what happens with some.
do you mean on the stubs or?
Stuff.
Oh, they're taken from like an actual ash cloud. Those stubs have been flowing through the ash cloud. That's what I mean. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll talk to you.
Okay, sorry.
A question online from Oliver as well. You call your particles aggregates, which implies chemical bonds between the particles. What would you say those are?
I'm not sure. Maybe some electrostatic forces, I suppose. Maybe I'm not using the word aggregate correctly. I'm not a chemist, just to put that out there. So yeah, I don't know if that's helpful. I think we're looking to explore that. So if anyone wants to talk about that, that would be really useful as well. But yeah.
Yeah, right.